This episode of 86 That is brought to you by Nanami Sushi Bar and Grill. If you're looking for the freshest sushi and authentic Japanese flavors just up the road in Austin, Nanami's the spot for you. From classic rolls to chef specials, it's perfect for a night out, date night, or just treating yourself. They're family owned, passionate about quality, and we're proud to have them supporting the show. So next time you're craving sushi, head to Nanami Sushi Bar and Grill, check out their menu at nanamisushi.com, and tell them that 86 That sent you. Once again, thank you so much to Nanami Sushi Bar and Grill for sponsoring this episode.
Wait, is this gonna be good for our pre-show little thing?
Is this a visual thing or an audio thing?
Yeah, this is totally visual. This is not gonna be helpful.
Yeah, we can describe it. We can do the audiobook version.
What is this?
This is from all of us.
So for the listeners, what John has is a birthday present.
Wow, y'all, this is.
Describe it, John. What do you see? What are you looking at right now?
I'm looking at a shirt.
It says fair. It says fair.
Thanks, guys.
Happy birth, miss.
You're welcome. That was from the heart.
Welcome to the 86 That podcast, where 5 college filmmakers sit down with a special guest each episode, directors, writers, producers, actors, and other creatives shaping the industry to talk movies, the creative process, and the ups and downs of making their work. Follow us on Instagram at 86 That podcast for episode highlights, exclusive bonus clips, and even chances to ask questions to future guests. We appreciate you tuning in and hope you enjoy. Today, we have a very special guest, guys. Originally from North Texas, she's currently residing in Austin, a highly talented production designer, artist, carpenter, and sculptor. She's specialized in many mediums, including wood, glass, paper, and metal forging and welding. When you talk about a creative, she's one of the first people who come in mind. Working in the film industry in the freelance art department, her credits include Brian Poiser's Tribeca premiere featured Leads and Brian's new short film To Go, my own short film, Sunny Afternoon, You're Smackin', and my upcoming thesis short film, Cleave, Nathan's own short films, Worms, and his upcoming thesis short film, Dweller, Haven, Pretty Fake, Leap, and many, many more projects. She's also working in the art department in the commercial and TV world. She's incredibly hardworking and passionate about what she does, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. Please welcome Halle Dillard. Welcome, Halle.
That was so sweet and so detailed. Thank you.
Thank you. I spent all week on it, so I feel like I want to ask some questions that I don't really know because I've known you for a couple of years. But a question I did not know was like, what was your spark? Like, was it like an art class you took in school? Or was it like a family member who was also an artist? What started this whole journey for you?
Like in film or like in my visual art?
Visual arts.
Arts?
What was the first thing?
Well, I'd always been a crafty person. I never really took any art classes. I was in theater in middle school and high school. And I worked in like the tech department and also acting. So I enjoyed working with my hands as well as, being on stage. And I got to college. I got to Texas State and I actually wanted to be a film major. And my advisor told me that Texas State does not have a film major, which is false. But I guess it was so new that she, didn't know about it, like that it was a concentration. And so then I was like, okay, I guess I'll just be a toy designer. And so then I switched my major to sculpture. And then that kind of prompted my my visual, handmade kind of art journey. And then after joining film club and working on Haven, that's when I realized that I could merge the two.
Have you made any toys before?
Oh, whoa.
Oh, no. No, I'm not.
Why toy design?
Well, okay, I do have I don't know if you'd consider this a toy, but I have these like wooden hands that
It's called
like
Barbie.
all of all of these the fingers are movable. Just by like wires
Puppet
and
Master?
yeah, and I like hung them. But it was a pretty quick turnaround from toy designer to production designer. I've worked with a lot of different materials. But specifically I was just really interested in miniatures and like dolls and that kind of stuff. Which is also, can definitely translates into film, especially for like stop motion kind of things, which is a huge goal of mine.
So I'm interested in, because you've mentioned that you started out more just art focused. What was the transition like to film?
It was really interesting because I thought it was going to be very linear kind of merging of the two, but as I got more into, production designing short films and working in the art department, learning more just about film in general, and also, being in my classes with all these different assignments, they didn't align as much as I thought they would, in terms of like the creation part versus, like creating and sculpting things and welding and constructing. But in, student films, there's not a lot of budget or like opportunity for me to kind of build those things.
Mm.
So I did see this divot in my paths as I found myself finding my artistic voice with production design and visual media versus my artistic voice with my sculptures.
Hmm.
They definitely, especially by the end of it, have a lot of translatable skills. Just knowing how to work with my hands and especially working with materials, seeing how things stick together, adhesive. It has definitely been uh, so beneficial and I would say like necessary to where I am now, but it wasn't as interwoven as I expected it to be.
So okay, so you started in theater in high school, and then you went into college thinking you'd do film. The advisor said no, so you went into sculpting art, and now you're like here. But what was the moment that you're like, oh wait, can actually do this for a living? Maybe I can, at what point did that happen?
Yeah, it was on Haven, the first film club, Texas State Film Club's first, club wide short film. I very specifically remember showing up to film club because my roommate was like, "Oh, you should come to film club." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." Like it's still a hobby of mine to like watch movies. And I showed up and the board was up there and the vice president at the time, Taylor, was talking to everybody and he was like saying, "This is our short film and this is who's going to be on it and this is when it's going to start, blah, blah, blah." And I remember so specifically him saying, if this is your first time in film club and you just got here and this looks interesting to you at all, like just come up to me afterwards and we'll get you involved." And I walked right up to him afterwards and I told him I was interested and he was like, "Okay, what do you do?" And I said I was an art major and he said, "Great, I'll put you on props." And I had so much fun. And it was the first set I'd ever been on. So, learning the behind the scenes and how things work and how accessible it was to me to just be able to join in on that's definitely when it clicked.
That's so fascinating though, and that's so cool how film club did that for you.
I wanted to talk about like the differences between like narrative films compared to like the commercial work that you do now. Like,
Yeah.
what is the process like in the? Because I know they definitely have differences in pre-production for sure when it comes to like narrative and commercial. But what is that like? Like, what is your workflow for each type of project?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with because I have done I've art directed a couple like campaigns and commercials like on the smaller scale, and I feel like that's a better comparison, direct comparison to when I production design narrative work. And I will say that it's really just I'm not talking, I'm not talking to like a creative team or whatever, especially on these smaller ones. Like I didn't even talk to the director. The producers were like, "This is the color palette we're going for, and this is the list of things you need to get. So just go for it."
Oh,
Versus with narrative, it's more about like visual language and the uh the meaning behind not only the story, but the words and, metaphors, images,
uh-huh.
symbols, motifs, all that kind of stuff. And those are definitely elements that you could still find in commercial, depending on who it's for and what their goal is and how deep it is. But I do find that a lot of the commercial world is just much shallower, and it's more about doing the job rather than how did we get here and where do we want to go.
Well, how do you balance that creative energy with the physical labor that comes with it? Do you enjoy both, or does the creative aspect make the physical labor worth it? Like in film and in sculpting?
Yeah. I mean, I think depending on what it is, like I said, I love working with my hands. I love creating and transforming materials versus moving furniture around is not my favorite thing to do, but I have to do it a lot when I'm working on a commercial. We're just carrying bins and bins and bins of things. And I'd say that definitely the creative aspects do make that worth it, but in addition to that, I'm also gaining, I'm getting my workout in. I'm gaining physical skills, and I'm walking around and I'm moving, which is, just generally really good for you. And so it's also just like invigorating to do all of that labor and have all of that creativity. And at the end of the day, like, you did both. You had room and space for both, or even if you felt like you didn't, you ended up having room and space for both. But yeah, I mean, and there's always, in the commercial world, like, yes, there is less depth to it, but that's kind of when you can find your own depth to things, especially when, the higher ups don't care as much. Then you can you have a little bit more creative freedom, honestly, to place things, and you can make your own stories. But to me, it's also just really satisfying to look at something that I've arranged and have that satisfaction of the aesthetic that it is portraying.
That answer actually is just along the lines of one of my questions, which is like, I talk to a lot of people about this in the film industry because it's my favorite thing to talk about, which is like when you get like the filmmaking feeling, and I describe it as like the time in which you're really feeling like you're doing it, or like you're making a story come to life. I'm curious, in your like workflow, when does that obviously it happens during multiple times during your processes, and that can, you can talk about that, but like, where is like the biggest, like, is it when you finally see it all together? Is it finally when you see it on the big screen, or is it like sometime when you're crafting it? Like, when does that really happen for you?
It's the monitor for sure.
Okay.
Every time
Very cool.
and when I look at the monitor, and I found I still, like, I've been doing this I've been, production designing short and larger format things for at least a little over 4 years now, and still I will like decorate a space and I'll just look at it. I'm like, I'm just not satisfied. It doesn't look quite right. I didn't bring enough stuff, even though I stuffed my car full of everything I could think of. And then, I'm just like, okay, we'll sit on it. Everyone else has to do their job. I'll see what it looks like. And it always makes the biggest difference. It's so crazy, especially like, you have the lighting, you have the mood, you have the atmosphere, and then you set up the shot, and it's really, even a wide doesn't get everything. So you're able to move things around if you need to fill space, but usually my eye, I should trust it more, because usually it works out. But yeah, definitely the monitor, because it's everybody working together. Like, I'm not an interior designer. I'm not like creating this whole entire space for someone to exist in. Like, we're painting a picture, and it looks the best when everybody's job is done.
I think production design is like so interesting because the things that you're doing are like tangible, like on screen, like where, like, if someone was like, if you're a cinematographer, you're like, yeah, I shot this. And it's like, yeah, I was behind the camera and choosing angles and stuff like that. But it's like, technically you're shooting what's on the screen, but you didn't like choose like what's in the space, And so like, I don't know. I just think it's, out of all the positions on set, I think the art department is like the most artistically enjoyable. And like in my head, and I kind of wish I did more of it, because the times I helped out in high school doing it, it was so fun.
Like satisfying too.
It's so satisfying, because being able to like, I also acted, so I never really got to see it all the time, but my parents would record sometimes, and so like seeing the set, like being alive, was so, like, it was magical. So I don't know, like being able to see the tangible object and being like, yeah, I set that up or something like, for like some commercial or anything or a narrative, maybe a big movie that you get to be on. I just think it's so interesting. Like creating the story, like you said, it's cool.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I find so much joy in that tangibility and in creating this space and setting it up. But I mean, really, like I was saying, like everything is so important because I will take pictures of a set and it's not like, I'm not a photographer. I'm taking a picture on my phone. This is just like what I see. Whereas like when I'm working with a DP, they set up the shot in a way that, I couldn't even think of because they know I set up the space, but they know what to highlight and they know what to focus on and they know how to, angle the camera just so that certain things are more visible than others. And they're the ones creating the geometry and the symmetry of the screen. I set up the space for them to be able to do that. But I mean, especially when I'm working with Freddie, it's so collaborative. He is so collaborative, especially with me, that I feel like feel more a part of his process than I do in other areas, because I just set it up and they figure it out. Versus when I'm working with certain DPs that kind of have that production design in mind, then he's able to look at things and say, hey, Halle, like, what if we switch this and what if we adjust this? And it really, really just makes it. I can understand, especially just like viewers that have not experienced, behind the scenes, like looking at the mise en scène and they see the set behind them, like yes, that's a lot more tangible to them. But when you're looking at just a picture of the set versus the shot, it's so different. Like especially when I'm submitting my portfolio or adding things to my resume, I really try to get stills from the directors because it makes a huge difference.
With that in mind, where that level of collaboration, is there ever a time where you're gonna swap to do you want to kind of stay in the production design world, in the artist world, or is there ever a time where you're gonna try and do more of the directing and or that type of thing, or maybe branching out and even being a DP to have those kind of like those like moments where you say like finding different things? Is that something of interest to you, or is production design kind of where you find the most, obviously that's probably where you find the most joy, but is there like open to other areas that you want to try?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to so many other areas. I think it's so, you can learn as you go and figure things out. And I know so many people that, didn't go to school at all or didn't go to school for the thing that they're doing and they're just doing it. However, I also have found so much value in my formal education. Being that the things that I can do now, I could absolutely not do at the beginning of my college career, like art-wise. I remember talking to my mom before I, took my first art class, and I was like, Mom, all these people have been like drawing their entire lives or sculpting their entire lives, or they've been in classes. I've never taken an art class before. And she was just like, that just makes it even easier for them to help you mold your artistic voice, and starting from the ground and going up during, in my college experience, I'm able to see how much I've learned and what are the things that I didn't focus on. Like I love storytelling, but I have not, in like a writing sense. I used to write a lot when I was in, middle and high school, but I've not written in a while. I've not flexed that muscle. And so while those, directing potentially, and some kind of writing maybe are intriguing to me, it's something that I would definitely have to focus a lot of energy on, because it's just a muscle that I've not stretched in a while. Camera baffles me. I know nothing. I'm not. When I was a kid, I did want to be a DP. I remember looking on the screen and being like, "Oh, what's a director of photography?" And once it was explained to me, I was like, "That would be so cool to do." And so there was a time where I wanted to do that, but at this point, I'm gonna stick to my strengths outside of the gear, because I don't know how to do any of that.
Well, so there are some people who become directors and they started out as writers, or they started out as actors, or they started as this, and they bring specific skills to it that they learned from being in those other fields. If you did direct something or did write something, what do you think you would bring to it because you've been in production design and been in the art department that somebody else may not think about?
Magical fantasy.
That's a good question. Yeah.
That's a really good question.
That's why I left. I had to go and like deeply think about that question.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
For our viewers, Lane's thing cut out, so he left the
call for a second.
Room for a little bit. Yeah.
I think, like I said, working with all of the departments, I think would be something that I would be very passionate about bringing to the table, because there have been so many sets that I'm on that the DP says not one word to me. I just set it up and I step away and they just kind of do their thing. And that's not my favorite way to work. It's not necessarily wrong, but I have found so much more creative joy in the collaboration, because I mean, that's the beauty of film, is everyone has this such a specific thing that they know so much about. Like, I'm looking at these cameras and all of these parts to them, and I have no clue what is going on. But this DP and these camera operators know exactly what each piece of this technology does. And that translates into, that contributes to all of the other departments, and they're all coming together and creating this. And I do think it's so important that everybody talks to each other and communicates to each other. And, the director wants this. This is how they want it to look. But how can the gaffer and the production designer and the DP make that happen together? It's not about just like moving this one portrait. It's about, well, how are we going to light it? How are we going to shoot it? Like, how do we want to highlight that? And there's so many ways to highlight that. And I think it would just like expand the creative options and make it so much deeper and more satisfying to everybody involved.
Yeah, you've really just described my favorite thing about film, which is just the fact that it's like all of us just bring in our very specific skill sets and we just collaborate. And it's like it's so amazing to be able to be on set. And I just know that like, and when you don't do this, it's so obvious. And I have a specific story from Worms, which you were the production designer for, where, me and Nathan tried something which we really shouldn't have. We should have just stayed in our skill sets and let you do your work. But like, it's so much fun to be able to just say, I don't know anything about this, and someone else is very talented in this. Let them have it. Because Nathan, I remember this. It was the most simple thing on the planet. We were trying to glue a bottle to a piece of plexiglass. Took us maybe 2 hours.
I wouldn't say this is the most simple thing on the planet.
Okay. Well,
what I think was funny is Halle, you had the hot glue the whole time, but we learned about the hot glue the second day, and you let us struggle in our own. You let us.
You really should.
But thank you.
You should have just been like, you idiots need to
Halle was like, Halle that on second day was like as professional as can be. Made this thing look like 3 billion times better than anything. We're showing up with like a taped bottle to like a plexiglass that's like half hanging off, and Halle comes out where it looks like it's store bought, and it's like, how are we supposed to we can't compete with that. But yeah, it
in our defense, it was like a camera thing, so we were like, oh yeah, we'll do this because we're putting it in front of the camera and everything.
It was like a
but
rig.
Really, yeah, it was a rig for like a camera shot. So we were like, oh, we'll do this. But we were just like, standing together trying to glue this thing together. We were like, we have no idea what we're doing. And we were just like, what? We have a production designer who like knows how to get things to get stuck to other things like professionally. Why aren't we using
Dude, the funny thing about like that night, the night prior to the shoot, We were all sitting at the table, and like y'all were going crazy about this thing, and I was like
no sleep that night.
I was in my brain. I was like, okay, they've done everything possible that they could like ever try.
Yeah, we were like,
And
this is
I was,
impossible.
So in my
actually.
mind, they had already
There's no
gone
way.
past the hot glue. Like I thought the hot glue didn't work. Like I thought they tried the hot glue. I was like, if they're going to tape, like something, but the hot glue must have not worked out because they got.
Well,
hot
and
Yeah,
glue.
we used double-sided tape.
I don't know.
There were so many other options besides the tape and the hot glue. We just didn't, at that point on the shooting day, definitely didn't have time for
Hot glue
like
was the
caulk to
fast.
dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was the fastest, but
That was a learning experience for us.
Yeah.
yeah.
Halle, you've worked on a lot of stuff, and I feel like I've seen your name next to production designer credit like 1,000 times, especially on like student screenings that, especially at Texas State the past couple of years. Do you ever say no? How do you decide which projects to say yes to? Have you turned something down because it didn't align with creatively with you?
Short answer to that is yes. When I was first starting out, my schedule was much more relaxed and I was able to just kind of go all in, and I wanted to learn as much as possible, and I was so excited because it was so fresh, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are giving me so much power and like creative freedom. How can I say no? And then it gets later into my college career, and I have other obligations, and then I'm working and I'm going to school, and I have outside organizations as well. And I'd say it's less about, I'm not saying no because I don't want to do it, but I do have kind of a ranking of importance in my head on who I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying yes to, because especially now that I'm not in school anymore and I'm relying on, I'm freelancing, and it's harder for me to set aside time that I don't even know, like maybe a 15-day job, maybe I'll have to do 15 days and I have to say no because I'm on a student film for 2 days. And you just kind of roll the dice, and it's gotten a little less flexible for me to say yes to a lot of things. So yeah, I do like to look at the script beforehand. I like to look and see how prepared they are. I like to see who the producer is, and there are questions that I know now to ask so I don't get myself into something that I later regret. And of course, I want to help, everybody achieve their vision and their art and their goals. I just have to prioritize myself and the people that have, done things for me that I want to save space for. And the people that have invested in me, like I want to invest in them. And it's just kind of a balancing act on what I can say yes and no to, depending on those factors.
What genre do you find to be the most fulfilling to work on and to execute the scene design? You have a genre?
I mean,
Period piece sci-fi westerns.
I guess I would say, and that's the thing too, is like, especially with student films, it's a smaller budget, so a lot of people try to do it as easy as they can, except for some people that want to transform a house in a day into 50 years prior. But that was my favorite thing I've ever worked on, ever. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Was your smacking?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm honored.
But yeah, I mean, I learned so much, and I was able to, you gave me so much creative freedom. It was the biggest student budget that I'd had thus far. And I found myself less relying on, how can I make this work with what I have? How can I make it look as good as possible? And I was able to kind of more rely on my creative vision as well. And I was able to express myself more. And I think, when I'm working in this industry, sometimes it can get exhausting just checking off a list and lugging things around and setting them around. But I guess, going back to the other question of what makes it worth it is definitely projects like those that I get to really express myself along with, this person's vision. Like, we get to work together to make it come together versus, just the list of things and lugging stuff around and
there's no creative juice to
dropping it in. Yeah.
When things like complications happen like day of on set, has that ever happened in like larger budget, like in commercials and stuff like that? And like in those circumstances, like what do you find yourself doing to like overcome those moments?
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite part. I love it when something goes wrong, and I might sound sarcastic right now, but I'm absolutely not. I guess I would say the thing that I love most about production design is problem solving, creative problem solving. And I mean, that's something that's so present in and on set in general. But it's so fulfilling to me to not just use my intellect to, or outsource things to figure out the answer, but in that moment I only have my brain and what I have and what can I work out in this puzzle. And that is the most one of the most fulfilling things to me. And I'm freaking out, yeah, but I kind of thrive in it. It excites me. It gets me,
when all the wallpaper just starts peeling off and we still have like 6 more shots left.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on what it is too. Like, it might be more of a fun problem to solve, or like oh my gosh, we just spent 12 hours putting this up. Can I catch a break?
Another example too is like on our first take with the glass bottle, and we didn't have another glass bottle. Literally was the first take, and the bottle shattered into pieces. I thought we were done. I thought like I was like doing my best to be like, because I felt so I didn't want to like show my like emotion at that point to like, and Halle just took the pieces and set aside before I could even react. She already had it taped up, ready to go, and looked good as new. It was like
I didn't like commend you on this, but I want to commend you now. Halle, your response to that was maybe the best thing on the planet. You just like were so in it. You were just like, oh, okay, we'll fix this problem. And that it's like to us was just like, because I think for me, I was just looking at Nathan and I was like, no, what do we?
I was
how are you going to react to this? And then I was scared because we're working with a young actor who, he's a young actor. He didn't, he wasn't thinking, and he was the reason that the bottle broke. And I was like, oh no, is he gonna like? How is this all gonna go? And then you just took over and you're just like, oh, we're gonna fix it. And it was so that was.
I'm glad he was like kind of like whatever, like he wasn't like too. He didn't beat himself up about it, because honestly, I think if he beat himself up, it'd be more time.
I tried to make sure right away to make sure he knows that it was okay. But internally, we were all screaming for a second.
For a moment, I was like, oh no! But you were so fast.
That was such a crazy moment too, because I was not in eyesight of anything. I knew we were shooting the scene where the child was holding that bottle, and I heard a shatter, and I heard everybody go, oh.
Yeah.
And so no, I was not quite as calm at first. I think I was also in shock of like, I expected the bottle to be completely shattered.
I'm so glad it didn't break that much.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then I walked over, and I think that's kind of why I was so calm about it, was because I was expecting it to be so much worse. As I walked over, and it was just like the top had popped off, and it was in like 2 pieces or something. And I was like, oh, easy.
Yeah, we can fix this.
You can literally cover it with your hand. Like, that's fine.
Yeah. And now that we've been in post and looked at the footage, you can't even notice. I mean, it's
tell.
Great. Can't tell at all. Yeah.
Amazing. Love
to we're getting towards the end here, but before we leave, we got 2 audience questions. The first one is from Cole Booster. He said, "Do you prefer being given a concrete vision or having the freedom to cook in production design?"
To the way he said cook.
He said cook in production design.
I would say neither. Whenever somebody gives me a concrete vision, like sometimes, usually when that happens, they don't, like if a director does that, then sometimes they don't deem me the production designer. Like I'm just the art director because I'm just executing it. Versus if I have full creative freedom, as fun as that is, like to do on my, have full creative freedom and do that with my own projects, I don't feel as connected to the story because I don't ever have full creative freedom. I didn't write the story. So if the director is giving me, in quotes, full creative freedom, then it's kind of disconnecting me from the story because the director is what ties me to the story.
So do you think you would rather have the director talk to you about story and just attack it that way rather than
just point the direction and then let you take it?
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, no, totally. I mean, that's what's fulfilling behind, narrative is like what I was saying, the depth behind it is, where are we coming from and where are we trying to go? And that's something that I need the team to help me get there, especially and I like working with the DP too in pre-production. Nobody ever does that, but I like working with the DP. I like working with the DP and the director / writer, usually with students. It's both. But I like working with both of those people because, like I said, those are the people that are kind of going to determine what's on the monitor. And if we start ahead of time, it's going to make it so much more worth it.
And lastly, how do you create designs when you feel a lack of inspiration / where do you turn to be inspired?
In all things, I think, I don't remember what, I know, John, you've mentioned you find a song that you tie to and that kind of brings your things to life. Throughout all of my creative process, I always go back to my emotions, and a lot of my personal art relies in that and the introspection, because I'm a very feel your feelings advocate, and that's kind of what everything boils down to is what am I feeling and what am I trying to express. It's kind of different when you're working on a collaborative project, but just visual media in general. I'll look to other stills and other films and eras of art and interior design and things. And
there's just so much inspiration out there, especially for production design specifically. I don't really find a shortage of that.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Always great to
Thank
talk
you.
to.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Funny how two of
you.
us are, you're working on two of me and Nathan's projects while all this is happening, and we're both in the thick of pre-production. So we know we're all really busy. So we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
happening.
absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
good luck,
thank you, guys.
Good luck with your gig in Dallas. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. It was great to talk to you all. Bye.
Nice.
See you
Bye,
later.
Halle.
Thank you.
that was great.
Wow.
But we didn't even, it just felt like we were just talking about memories at this point.
That just flew by. I didn't even realize when you said, "Oh, it's nearing the end." I was
Well, she's also very kind and a sweet person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy how the people that succeed in this industry are good people and good at their job. The two things you kind of need to check off to.
Yeah,
And Halle definitely checks those boxes.
that's a good point, John.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Elaine.
Well, thank y'all for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure
Where's
to
the
like
energy
and
here? Come on,
subscribe.
guys. What's going on?
Oh, my stress ball just busted.
Oh. All right.
Oh, no.
86
Thank you for listening to the 86 That podcast. Make sure to stay up to date by following us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Instagram at 86 That podcast, where you can find episode highlights, exclusive bonus clips, and even chances to ask questions to future guests. We appreciate you tuning in and hope to see you in the next one.
This episode of 86 That is brought to you by Nanami Sushi Bar and Grill. If you're looking for the freshest sushi and authentic Japanese flavors just up the road in Austin, Nanami is the spot for you. From classic rolls to chef specials, it's perfect for a night out, date night, or just treating yourself. They're family owned, passionate about quality, and we're proud to have them supporting the show. So next time you're craving sushi, head to Nanami Sushi Bar and Grill. Check out their menu at nanamisushi.com and tell them that 86 That sent you. Once again, thank you to Nanami Sushi Bar and Grill for sponsoring this episode of our podcast.